I knew something was wrong the third time a delivery vanished from my porch. The box had been there at noon. Amazon tracking confirmed it. By evening, gone. Poof. Like a magician's trick. Except I wasn't laughing. My stomach sank and I muttered under my breath. Not again. Damn it. It wasn't porch pirates from the street. No. The security camera I'd installed after the second disappearance revealed the culprit. Clear as daylight. Karen. The self-appointed queen of the Homeowners Association. That bob-cut tyrant with her designer sunglasses and a smirk sharp enough to slice glass. Are you kidding me? I gasped when I saw the footage. The audacity. She strutted up like she owned my doorstep, snatched my package, and even paused to check her manicure in my reflection before strolling off. Who does that? I sat there fuming, replaying the video, my fingers trembling with a mix of fury and disbelief. 3 packages. Gone. And she'd made it look effortless. Almost routine. How many neighbors had fallen victim to her? I marched outside that evening, pacing the sidewalk, eyes darting toward her pristine White House at the corner. Perfect hedges, trimmed roses, a flagpole with some smug Homeowners Association, pride of the community banner waving like it was mocking me. My fists clenched. But the war hadn't even begun yet. The next day, I cornered her by the mailbox. Hey, Karen, I said, forcing a tight smile. My voice shook a little, but I pushed through. Any chance you've seen some of my packages? They've been disappearing. She tilted her sunglasses down just enough for me to see her eyes glinting with smug amusement. Oh. Her tone dripped with false innocence. Maybe you should keep better track of your things. This neighborhood expects responsibility. You know. My jaw dropped. Excuse me. I am responsible. I have video. She cut me off with a laugh. Video? Honey, that kind of accusation could get you in trouble. I'd be careful what you say about people in this neighborhood. The Homeowners Association doesn't take kindly to slander. The nerve. She was threatening me. I stood frozen as she flipped her hair, turned on her heel and sauntered back to her house like a villain in slow motion. That night, couldn't sleep. The glow of my laptop lit up the living room as I dug through forums. Stories of dealing with neighborhood bullies, petty thieves, and power-drunk Homeowners Association presidents. My heart thudded in my chest. Maybe I couldn't stop her through the Homeowners Association, but I could hit her where it hurt. And then it clicked. A grin spread across my face as an idea sparked. Wicked and delicious. If Karen wanted my packages so badly, fine. I'd give her one. A very special one. The next day, I got to work. Plain cardboard box. Taped neatly. Labeled with my name. Inside, I placed a pouch of fine, bright pink glitter. The kind that clings to everything. Forever. I layered it with a spring-loaded confetti mechanism I'd found online. Rigged so that opening the box would unleash an explosion of shimmering chaos. But that wasn't enough. Oh no. Karen deserved more. So, with rubber gloves and a wicked sense of justice, I tucked in a sealed bag of shrimp. Not fresh. Not clean. Shrimp I'd left out in the sun for 2 days until the stench nearly knocked me out. My nose wrinkled as I packed it. You want my stuff, Karen. I whispered. Enjoy this. I left the package on my porch like bait. Then I waited. Hours crawled by. My nerves buzzed with anticipation. My ears straining for every sound. Finally, there she was. Karen. In her pastel blouse and wedge sandals. Strutting up the driveway like she owned it. She glanced left. Then right. Then bent down with her fake prim elegance. Click. My camera caught it all. She scooped up the box, tucked it under her arm and strutted away. My heart pounded with adrenaline. Gotcha. I whispered. What happened next? It was glorious. Later that evening, a sound erupted from her house. A shriek so sharp it pierced the quiet suburban night. Then came the slam of a door. The frantic thump-thump-thump of footsteps, and finally, the unmistakable whoosh of a vacuum cleaner roaring to life. I doubled over laughing in my living room. I could practically see the scene in my head. Glitter coating her rug, her clothes, maybe even her precious dog. And the shrimp. The smell would only grow worse. For once, Karen didn't come swaggering by my house the next day. She kept her blinds shut tight. Her car sat untouched in the driveway. Neighbors whispered on the street, chuckling, speculating. One even told me she saw Karen storm into the dry cleaners with a blouse that looked like it had survived a unicorn explosion. But the story wasn't over. Oh no, because Karen was the type who couldn't let things go. A week later, I found a letter shoved under my door. Not mailed. Shoved. My name scrawled in angry handwriting. Cease your childish pranks immediately, or the homeowners association will fine you for harassment. You are on thin ice. I let out a sharp laugh. Harassment. She had been stealing my property for weeks. Now that she got a taste of karma, suddenly I was the problem. My blood boiled, but beneath it was a surge of triumph. She was rattled. My plan had worked. Still, something felt unfinished. A part of me wanted more, wanted her fully exposed. Because while the glitter bomb was satisfying, she could still twist the narrative. Play victim. Whisper to the homeowners association board. I needed undeniable proof. So I set another trap. This time, I wired a decoy package with a discreet GPS tracker. Nothing fancy, just enough to ping my phone when it moved. I even stuffed it with decoy electronics. Old cables. A dead remote. Things to make it feel real. Then I set the box out on a sunny Saturday afternoon. Karen couldn't resist. By evening, the tracker pinged from inside her house. My phone buzzed. The little dot blinking on the screen. Proof. My heart raced. I had her. But here's where the twist came. The very next morning, as I prepared to march to the homeowners association with my evidence, someone knocked at my door. I opened it to find her husband. I blinked in shock. He stood there, tired eyes, shoulders slumped, holding the decoy package in his hands. Look, he muttered, voice low, almost ashamed. I'm sorry about this. Karen's. She's been having some issues. I didn't know it got this far. I just wanted to return this before things got worse. For a moment, I faltered. His face wasn't smug. It was broken, exhausted. I could see the weight of living under her reign pressing down on him. My anger wavered. But then, like a storm cloud, her shrill voice cut through the air from across the street. Don't you dare apologize to them, Richard. I looked up. Karen stood on her porch, arms crossed, face twisted in fury. Glitter still shimmered faintly in her hairline, catching the sunlight like cosmic punishment. They're the ones causing trouble in this neighborhood. She shouted. You're weak, Richard. Weak. Neighbors peeked out of windows. Car slowed down to watch. The scene was unraveling fast. Richard's jaw tightened. His grip on the box trembled. Then, with a deep sigh, he turned. Not to me, but toward her. No, Karen. You're the problem. You've embarrassed us enough. I'm done covering for you. The silence that followed was electric. I swear you could hear the collective gasp ripple down the street. Karen's face contorted. She stomped her foot like a child denied candy. You traitor, she screeched. But Richard didn't flinch. He walked back across the street, box still in his hands, and set it firmly on her porch. Then he went inside, slamming the door behind him. For the first time, Karen stood alone, truly alone. I watched from my doorway, my heart hammering, stunned by the twist. My plan to catch her had spiraled into something bigger, an unmasking, not just of a thief, but of a bully who had ruled through fear for far too long. The neighbors saw. The whispers would grow. The glitter might fade. But her downfall, it was sealed. I exhaled slowly, a long shaky breath, and whispered, "Justice." Because sometimes, karma doesn't just knock. It explodes like a glitter bomb and stinks like rotting shrimp. And that's how Karen got her downfall. Her throne of homeowners association power crumbling under the weight of her own arrogance and my perfectly timed counterattack. So tell me, do you think setting a trap for someone like her is justice or just another level of revenge? Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more wild neighborhood justice stories. I heard the hissing before I saw the damage. A sharp, high-pitched PSH cut through the quiet of my backyard like a snake in heat. When I rounded the corner near my pool, I froze. Someone had hacked through the red HOA pipe running alongside the patio tiles. Water was gushing out like a severed artery. Then I saw them. Two blondes in matching pink tracksuits and garden clogs, the Karen sisters. The self-declared queens of our HOA board. Rhonda and Stacy Langston. The type of women who wear tennis visors to grocery stores and call code enforcement if you hang wind chimes. And there they were, standing over the pipe, one holding a saw, the other sipping a Diet Coke like this was a casual Saturday. "You cut the pipe?" I shouted, voice rising. "That's the fire suppression line." Stacy blinked like I'd said something in Mandarin. It was an unauthorized installation, Bryce. We voted last week. Didn't you get the memo?" I could hardly breathe. "That's not your pipe to cute. It's in the safety blueprint. The city inspection signed off on it." "Are you insane?" Rhonda stepped forward, fake smiling. "Look, don't get all male aggression, okay? This is HOA jurisdiction, and that pipe was ruining the landscape design." I looked down. The pipe had been repainted in HOA beige 2 years ago. It barely stuck out. "You forged something?" I said slowly, piecing it together. "You filed false paperwork, didn't you?" She didn't answer. Instead, Rhonda gave me that smug, HOA leader grin, the kind that says she thinks she's invincible. Oh, she had no idea what was coming. I paced the edge of my property for 2 hours after they left. My hands were still shaking. They hadn't even tried to cover their tracks. They believed the entire HOA belonged to them, like it was their suburban fiefdom. And now they'd sabotaged a line that fed the emergency sprinklers and wall hydrants for 3 backyards, including mine. That line was on the city's fire registry. That night, I wrote a formal complaint. Then I took it one step further. I called my friend Cassie, municipal engineer turned city attorney. "You're not going to believe what 2 HOA members did today," I told her. I sent her the photos, the exposed pipe, the jagged saw marks, the puddled mud. She called back in 10 minutes, voice tight with fury. "They forged a removal order," she said. I pulled the digital record. The signature on it? It's not from the inspector listed. It's an old signature copy-pasted from a tree trimming permit from 2019. I should know. I handled that file. "You're serious?" Cassie was silent for a beat. Then, "That's felony-level fraud, Bryce. Tampering with fire safety systems. If a fire broke out, this would have been catastrophic. You could file a lawsuit, or let me take it higher." Higher she did. Within 2 weeks, city code enforcement was crawling through our neighborhood. Quietly, no flashy cars, just clipboards, cameras, and polite knocks. At the HOA meeting, Rhonda acted like nothing was happening. She wore a lemon-yellow blazer and batted her lashes while sipping from a world's best HOA chairwoman mug. "This community's about integrity," she purred into the mic. "We can't have rogue installations compromising property values." I could feel my blood pressure spike. My hand clenched the folder. I'd brought a copy of the pipe's inspection log, the real permit, and the forged version she'd submitted. I raised my hand. "Funny," I said, standing, "because I have documents here proving you filed fraudulent paperwork to remove a fire line." The silence was instant. Rhonda's smile twitched. Stacy leaned back in her chair like she was melting. "Excuse me?" Rhonda scoffed. "That's a serious accusation, and frankly, the city agrees." I cut in. "In fact, there's an active investigation. And I've got the engineer who inspected the line on video confirming your file is forged." Someone gasped. Chairs shifted. Rhonda stood up, voice now icy. "This is defamation. I'm calling my lawyer." Cassie stepped into the room just then, all tailored suit and purpose. "Great," she said calmly, "because the city subpoenaed your digital HOA records this morning, and I'm the one prosecuting the case." The room exploded, voices rising, people turning in their seats, HOA members looking at Rhonda and Stacy like they were aliens. Karen's sister too literally dropped her hydro flask. "You can't," Rhonda started. "Oh, we can," Cassie said sharp. "You endangered lives, and then you lied to cover it. The lawsuit Bryce filed is the start. Criminal charges are pending." That night, Rhonda tried to spin it in the community forum. She claimed it was all a misunderstanding, a misfiled document, a landscaping contractor's mistake. But screenshots don't lie. Neither do timestamps, nor digital ink mismatches. The city forensics team found 3 separate instances where Rhonda logged in using a guest HOA account, edited safety files, and changed permit approvals. Sloppy, obvious, stupid. By the end of the week, someone egged her house. I didn't do it, but I didn't cry over it either. A week later, the twist came. Rhonda had been quietly collecting safety compliance fees from 10 homeowners, claimed it was required to keep insurance rates down. She'd even printed HOA letterhead invoices with barcodes. Turns out those payments $250 each, quarterly had been going into a private PayPal account under the name RL Community Admin LLC. Fraud. Absolute. IRS noticed, civil suit inviting, go straight to jail fraud. Now it wasn't just the city. The Federal Consumer Protection Unit got involved. HOA funds mishandled? Falsified invoices? Wire fraud? I saw Rhonda get escorted from her porch in handcuffs. I watched from my fence line, barely blinking. She didn't say a word this time. Not to the officer. Not to her weeping sister. Not to the HOA members gathering in bathrobes and lawn chairs. Just slipped quietly into the back of a black SUV like the villain in a movie where the audience finally claps at the end. Stacy moved out a week later. The community erupted. New elections. Emergency audits. We found out their HOA board laptop had passwords taped underneath, with sticky notes. One of them read, "Don't let Bryce see this." Too late. In the aftermath, I got asked to join the new HOA board. I said no. Why? Because I didn't need a title to do what was right. And frankly, I didn't want to sit where Rhonda's perfume still lingered in the meeting room. But I did help organize the lawsuit, the neighborhood Filleta class action, actually. Every homeowner who paid those fake compliance fees got their money back, plus damages. Stacy tried to claim she was just following her sister's orders, but the wire transfers didn't lie. Her signature was on 5 of them. She was named in the civil suit too. Their house? Foreclosed. HOA records? Turned over. IRS? Still sniffing around like bloodhounds. The fire department even sent a letter thanking me for stepping in. Said the disabled pipe could have caused irreversible loss during peak fire season. I framed it. It hangs in my hallway next to a photo of my pool now safe, with a bright red line running beside it as required. Every so often, I see new neighbors reading the HOA charter like it's a haunted manuscript. They always ask me the same question. Were the Karen sisters real? I nod. Oh yeah, very real, but not very smart. One night, about 3 months later, I got an anonymous postcard. No return address. Just a white card with 4 words written in red ink. "You think you won?" I laughed out loud. Alone on my porch, under the porch light that Rhonda once tried to find me for, claimed it was too bright for neighborhood tone. That light stayed up, brighter than ever. Maybe I didn't win in the way they meant. But the truth? That lawsuit, those handcuffs, the restitution, the shame, they burned more than any HOA fee ever could. Karen power evaporates fast when receipts come printed with charges. So if you're dealing with a Karen or two yourself, keep screenshots, stay calm, and never ever let forged files slide. You'd be surprised how fast fake authority melts under real accountability. And if you like this true HOA takedown, subscribe to my channel because the next lawsuit story might just make Rhonda look like a warm-up act. It started with a snap. A sharp, deliberate click of a cheap lock being closed again. That sound still echoes in my head, because I wasn't the one who opened or closed that lock. I hadn't touched that cabin door in weeks. Why would I? It was my garden cabin. My private space. No one else had the key, at least they weren't supposed to. You ever get that sinking feeling in your gut? Like something's wrong and your body knows it before your brain catches up? That was me, standing by the edge of my own backyard, staring at the small cabin I'd built by hand-me DIY retreat from the HOA madness. The lock was different. The air even smelled chemical. Like nail polish remover and mold had a baby and left it out in the sun. I should have trusted that feeling earlier. I really should have. But back then, I thought, maybe I'm just being paranoid. I hadn't had much peace since the Karen sisters moved in 2 doors down. Actual sisters, 2 50-something blondes with matching French tips, matching screechy little dogs, and matching superiority complexes. They weren't just HOA board members. They were the HOA board. And oh, they hated me. I was the non-compliant, the rebel, the renter trash who somehow bought a house. In their words, not mine. Things escalated after I refused to join the HOA garden beautification project. That was just code for buy expensive flowers from their cousin's nursery. I said no. I planted vegetables instead: tomatoes, eggplants, kale. Organic, ugly, and effective. Then the citations started. Noise violation for using my hose at 9 a.m. Trash bin out 5 minutes past collection. A warning for unauthorized fencing, aka the rabbit-proof mesh around my crops. Petty nonsense. But nothing prepared me for what they did next. It was early June. I'd just come back from a work trip, tired, sweaty, dragging my suitcase across the gravel, and as I walked past the garden cabin, that's when I noticed it. The smell. The lock. The dirt near the door. Freshly disturbed. And weirdest of all, a pair of boot prints I knew weren't mine. I opened my phone and checked the security cam pointed at the front of the house. Nothing there. But I'd never installed one for the backyard. I never thought I'd need to. Big mistake. I grabbed my spare key from the shed, slid it into the cabin lock. It didn't fit. What the? I tried again. No dice. I yanked at the handle, frustrated. That's when I saw it. A small chip in the wood near the lock. Someone had replaced the whole cylinder. On my property. And then, I heard the unmistakable sound of a tiny yappy dog, followed by both Karen sisters walking up the sidewalk, sunglasses on, coffee in hand, like they owned the world. I turned and stared. "Oh, hey," said the older one, Dana. "I think you're back early." "Back early? What? Did you change the lock on my cabin?" I asked, stunned. "Oh, that." The other one, Linity, actually laughed. "It's not your cabin anymore, sweetie. HOA Regulation 14B. Shared use structure within communal zoning. We voted on it at the emergency board meeting. You didn't attend." My jaw dropped. "I didn't attend because I wasn't even notified." Dana shrugged, taking a long sip of her overpriced iced mocha. "Well, you should really check your email more often. Let me get this straight." I took a breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "You broke into my property, changed the lock, and now you're saying it belongs to the HOA. No, Lynette said sweetly. "We're just storing a few things. It's temporary. Community resources." "What the hell are you storing in there?" That's when the smile twitched on Dana's face. Just for a second. A microsecond of panic. She looked at Lynette. And I knew. They weren't supposed to be in there either. I called my lawyer. I called the sheriff's department. I even filed an emergency trespassing report. But you know how small towns work. HOA board members? They're besties with the deputies. I got brushed off. Civil matter. Handle it through your HOA channels. I was fuming. So I did what they didn't expect. I filed a private civil lawsuit and hired a private investigator. Took him 1 week to gather what I couldn't. Hidden cameras across my property line. Photos of the Karen sisters entering and leaving the cabin at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., carrying coolers, boxes, a space heater. What in the hell were they doing? Then came the twist. My PI cross-referenced the license plates of the people coming and going from my yard. One name pinged on a federal watch list. Another had a suspended medical license. The investigator turned pale and said, "You need to get the feds involved." I was like, "What did you just say?" He nodded. "They're using your cabin as a storage front for counterfeit beauty products, illegally imported, unregulated, and banned in this state." I actually dropped my phone. A week later, at 6:17 a.m., the calm morning air shattered with barking dogs and a bang on my door. "Warrant!" someone yelled. I opened the door in my robe. It wasn't the sheriff. It was the state troopers with a federal task force and 2K9 units. Holy hell. They rushed past me, handed me the search warrant, and hit the backyard like a SWAT scene. Dogs barking, agents yelling, cabin door blown clean off its hinges. And you know what they found inside? Hundreds of unmarked boxes, full of jars, vials, and sealed bags. Chemicals, fake skincare, foreign labels, expired prescription labels from Asia. A damn lab setup. On my property. The lead agent looked at me and said, "You're the complainant?" I nodded, still shocked. "You're lucky. If we'd found this without your tip, you'd be the one in cuffs." And that's when it hit me. The Karen sisters weren't just nosy. They were criminals. And they tried to frame me. I laughed. Right there. Half in relief, half in rage. They showed up minutes later screaming, "This is a misunderstanding. That's our private stock. You're violating HOA jurisdiction." The agents didn't care. Dana was cuffed first, still in her pink tracksuit. Lynette followed, sobbing and screeching about a setup and warrant errors. One of the dogs barked right in her face. God, that was satisfying. 3 months later, we were in court. Dana and Lynette had the audacity to file a countersuit, claiming I had entrapped them. They hired one of those flashy HOA attorneys who speaks in all caps and tries to intimidate the judge. Total disaster. Their case fell apart in under 20 minutes. The judge read the trooper reports, reviewed the photos, the surveillance, and the forensic lab analysis which confirmed the creams they were importing contained banned substances, including hydroquinone at illegal levels, expired hormones, and something the chemist called barely diluted acid. Apparently, this stuff was linked to permanent scarring. I remember the moment the judge took off her glasses and just sighed. "This isn't civil," she said. "This is criminal fraud. And the plaintiff," she added, nodding to me, "is the victim here." Lynette burst into tears. Dana stood there stone-faced, probably still in denial, like HOA bylaws were going to save her in federal court. Too late. The lawsuit I filed? Stuck. Trespassing. Forgery. Property damage. Intent to defraud using my land. I got awarded $185,000 in damages plus legal fees. That cabin? The HOA had to pay to rebuild it entirely. But the real blow came next. Their arrest triggered a state audit of the HOA finances. Turns out the beautification fund they pushed so hard? It didn't just go to overpriced mulch and fountains. They were funneling thousands into fake maintenance costs back to their cousin's fake nursery company. Wire fraud. Embezzlement. The HOA dissolved within 6 weeks. By the time the IRS got involved, both Karen sisters had their assets frozen. They lost their cars, their matching condos, even the ridiculous lapdogs were rehomed. One night I got a letter, typed, "Mredzi." I think it was from a former board member. It read, "They always thought they were smarter than everyone else. Thank you for not backing down. And to think they almost got away with it. All they had to do was leave me and my garden cabin alone. But no, they picked the wrong neighbor, the wrong lawsuit, the wrong damn hobby farmer with a security-minded brain and a zero-tolerance policy for bullshit. And now? Well, I still grow tomatoes. I still sit out by my newly rebuilt cabin, sipping cold brew and smiling as I scroll through the public court docket with their names on it. Actions have consequences, even for HOA Karens with matching dogs, especially when they try to pull a scam on my property. If you want more jaw-dropping HOA drama, real lawsuits, and savage karma stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Justice never sleeps. She banged on the gate like it owed her money. "Fire inspection," she shouted. holding up a laminated card that looked like it had been printed off a school computer in 2004. Problem was, I knew the actual fire chief. He was barbecuing ribs in my backyard at that exact moment. I blinked twice, dumbfounded. Was she really trying to impersonate a fire inspector just to get into my backyard? "Excuse me," I said, stepping up to the gate. I could see her clearly now. HOA Karen. Short bob haircut. Arms crossed with the authority of a dictator. And the smug smirk of someone who just Googled how to be a fire marshal 20 minutes ago. Official fire safety review. You've got overgrown brush back there. Major hazard. Open up, she barked, tapping the plastic badge on her chest. It had clip art flames on it. I kid you not, clip art flames. Behind me, my neighbor Captain Rick Mendez of Station 42 let out a slow whistle. "Well, damn," he muttered, setting his spatula down. "You want me to handle this? Or should we play along?" Couldn't help but smirk. This woman had made my life miserable for months. Citations for excess wind chimes, complaints about my garden gnome being too whimsical, and just last week, a formal letter about my non-regulation porch lights. And now this? Let's just say the karma truck had arrived, and it was driven by a man in a flame-retardant apron holding a bottle of barbecue sauce. I turned back to her. "Can I see your ID, ma'am?" She thrust the badge forward again, clearly annoyed. "It's right here. City approved. Now, unless you want a fine, I need access to your yard immediately." "Which city?" Rick called from behind me, casually walking over while wiping his hands on a rag. "Because I'm the fire chief here, and I sure as hell didn't issue that badge. You should have seen her face. I swear, if expressions made noise, hers would have sounded like a record-scratching mid-song." Karen's eyes darted to Rick, then to his Station 42 t-shirt, then to the massive tattoo of an axe and ladder on his forearm. She stuttered. "Oh, well, I meant I'm with the subdivision's fire safety board. You know, a volunteer role." Rick said, folding his arms. "So now you're not an inspector, but you volunteer for the HOA's imaginary fire board." Silence. Awkward. Heavy silence. The only thing louder was the hiss of the ribs on the grill and the barely muffled laughter coming from my wife through the open window. Karen tried to pivot. "The real issue is that brush pile. That dead wood could cause a fire, especially in this heat." She gestured dramatically toward the side yard. The so-called brush pile? It was a stack of compost I'd been carefully layering for months, covered, safe, and regularly watered. Certified by the actual city composting guidelines. "Oh, that," I said, trying to sound innocent. "Funny. Last time you looked over the fence, you said it was a rat nest." Karen flushed. "Well, it could be. That's why I was doing a precautionary check." Rick stepped forward, voice firm now. "Impersonating a public safety official is a felony in this state, ma'am." Her eyes widened. "I wasn't impersonating. I was just making sure the neighborhood was safe. For someone who cares so much about safety," I muttered. "You sure do walk around people's property without permission a lot." She opened her mouth, probably to unleash another round of HOA nonsense, but Rick took out his phone. "I'm gonna have to call this in. You can explain it to dispatch. Or," he added, tone cooler now, "you could leave and we'll chalk it up to bad judgment." Karen hesitated, teetering on the edge of arrogance and fear. "Fine," she spat, "but don't come crying to the HOA when your yard burns down." She turned on her heel and stormed off, heels clacking on the pavement like angry castanets. Rick turned to me. "You okay if I file this anyway? I've had a few complaints about her crossing lines. This kind of thing can't keep happening." I took a long breath. "Do it." And that should have been the end. Should have. But this is Karen we're talking about. 3 days later, a notice showed up on my door. HOA violation. Unauthorized composting. Fire hazard. Non-compliant landscaping. $500 fine. I laughed. Out loud. My wife thought I was losing it. "Oh, she's doubling down," I muttered. "All right, let's see how deep she wants to dig this hole." I called Rick, and then I called someone else. a friend of mine in city zoning enforcement. Turns out, Karen had filed the complaint under a fake name, Karen D. Sparks. The HOA president didn't even know about the fine. And even better, Karen had used her own printer to generate the violation slip. No HOA logo, no board vote, nothing. She was operating solo. And the board was already annoyed with her after she'd banned flamingo lawn decor during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Yet pink flamingos claimed they were visual pollution. So I brought my little stack of evidence to the next HOA meeting, slid it across the table, let everyone see the fake inspection card, the phony fine, the zoning complaints that traced back to her IP address. Gasps, glares. One board member actually clapped. Karen didn't show up that night. She must have sensed the storm coming. But 2 days later, she sent me a letter handwritten. No return address. You think you've won, but I know what's in your shed. You better watch out. Oh no. Was that a threat? Over what? My tomato tools? I handed the letter to Rick. He handed it to the police. And just like that, the HOA board called an emergency session. Karen's position was suspended pending investigation. But the real kicker, that shed she mentioned, that's where I keep my surveillance equipment. Because yeah, I freelance for a home security company. Always testing gear. I had 4 weeks worth of footage showing Karen hopping my fence, peeking through my window, and at one point trying to jimmy open my side gate with a fork. A fork. Rick called it the fork files. The officers laughed. Karen did not. She was charged with trespassing, impersonating a public official, and stalking. Her fine? $4,000. And me? I built a new compost enclosure surrounded by solar-powered flamingo lights. They light up pink at night, just bright enough to be visible from her kitchen window. Poetic. Huh? And just when I thought it was over, she had to file a lawsuit. Yep. Karen, in full delusion mode, actually filed a small claims suit against me for emotional distress and loss of HOA credibility. She claimed that my compost pile, my flamingo lights, and even my aggressive neighbor friends, aka Rick, created a hostile living environment for her. I almost choked on my coffee when I read it. I showed up to court with a folder thicker than a college textbook. Inside, every fake citation she printed, her forged badge, timestamps of her trespassing, and oh yeah, the footage of her climbing my fence in yoga pants and orthopedic sandals, wielding a clipboard like a medieval sword. The judge took one look at my pile of evidence and sighed. Ma'am, he said, not only is your claim baseless, but the defendant has grounds for a counter-lawsuit. Karen's mouth opened then closed. She blinked, red in the face. But I didn't countersue. I just wanted it documented. I wanted it official. Her case was dismissed. She was fined again. And the HOA, finally fed up, held a special election. Karen lost her seat. Her power? Gone like smoke in the wind. Nowadays, she keeps to herself. Rarely leaves the house. Her once manic patrols have stopped. Her HOA emails mysteriously silent. Rick still jokes that she's probably drafting fake ordinances in her basement, but now, even the board laughs. Me? I'm just tending to my compost, sipping sweet tea, and watching the flamingos glow pink as the sun sets. And every now and then I see her curtains twitch. Be careful who you pretend to be, Karen, because some of us know the real fire chief. Oh, and if you liked watching this backfire unfold, don't forget to subscribe for more wild stories like this. You never know when the next lawsuit is coming.